Good evening, everyone. I'm going to need a motion to reconvene, please.
Mr. President, I move we reconvene the meeting of the Board of County Commissioners.
Second.
Have a motion and a second that we reconvene as the Calvert County Board of Commissioners. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion. I'm sorry. Commissioner Cox is online for those of you viewing in attendance. Motion passes. So good evening, everybody. I want to welcome you to the May 6th Calvert County Commissioner public hearing on the proposed FY26 budget. Just want to make a few comments as we get started here. Most of you that have been following this know that when the staff recommended budget was announced 2 months ago, we had a pretty large hole in our budget, about $15 million. At that time, we were concerned about issues at the state legislature because they were in the same situation we were in, and discussions were going on about passing down costs to counties, which is something that they've done in the past when they have tight budgets. So we really weren't sure where we were going to end up. But now that session is over, I think we ended up with about $2.2 million in passed on cost to us that we have to absorb in our budget. And we have made enough cuts in our budget to take care of the over $17 million deficit that we had in the beginning of this budget cycle. So tonight you're going to hear a presentation on the budget, and just want to assure you from the get-go there are no tax increases or other pass-along costs to our citizens that we're going to impose tonight to balance this budget. And as some of you know that follow this process, tonight is not the final. We still can make some changes to the budget before its adoption in June. And tonight, at the end of the meeting, we will set a date to end public comment, and that'll be the next step in the process for the public. So I also want to take this time to thank staff, finance and budget, county administrator's office, and the support team for all of her work. It may not sound like a lot of money when you have a $400 million budget, but $17 million is a lot of money. For those of you who've been following the last couple of years, it's been tough, and we've had to use fund balance to balance the budgets. We've been working really hard with the Board of Education because they are the biggest expense we have in our budget, trying to get through this process. And we made a decision at the beginning of this process, we were not going to raise taxes and that we were not going to use fund balance. You can't sustain balancing your budget using reserves every year. It's called a structural deficit. You just can't do that. At some point, you've got to make adjustments. We've been working hard to find other revenue sources for the county. We keep saying that we think something's on the horizon, and that horizon keeps not getting any closer. So this year, we just made the decision that we have to start making changes to our structure of our county government. And I know that some of you are not happy about those cuts that we had to make. Some of you are happy that they weren't worse than they could have been. We tried to do our best to protect staff as much as we could. We tried to make cuts that were not as impactful as others could be. But we know that no matter what we cut, there's going to be an impact to someone in some way, in some shape or form. And everybody has their own concerns and issues that they care about the most. And we greatly appreciate that. We appreciate all the public comment that comes in. It does help us make decisions. But at the end of the day, we're here to make decisions to make sure this county is on fine financial footing. And that's what we try to do. So with that, I'll turn it over to Beth.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hans. I'm Beth Richmond, Senior Advisor for the Department of Finance and Budget. Tonight, the first topic we will cover is the budget objectives for fiscal year 2026. Then, we will review the changes between the staff recommended budget we presented in March to the Commissioner's budget that we present here tonight. We will compare the adopted budget from FY25 to the FY26 Commissioner's budget. After that, we will give you an overview of the various funds as well as provide key highlights. Next, we will present projected changes under consideration for inclusion in the adopted budget. We will also discuss the capital improvement plan. Dr. Townsend will discuss the Board of Education's budget. Then lastly, we will discuss next steps and then open up the floor for public comment. Next up, County Administrator Mark Willis.
Good evening, Commissioners, and also to the public that's here and online. I want to start out, Mark Willis, County Administrator. What I'm going to discuss very quickly I want to explain the fact that we have in the past, it's normally a budget that you use from prior year history. However, we decided at the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners to go with a zero-based budget. I want to explain a little bit about that because it really points to the strengths of where the commissioners were looking. And it's a lot of information. I'm going to go through it quickly, but it helps to understand the foundation of our effort to move forward. So with that, I'll say, zero-based budget ensures that every dollar is intentionally placed in the place that we need it. That's okay, Dawn, we'll be good. So what does for fiscal responsibility, we're hoping to justify from scratch each year. We would need fiscal discipline, evaluated for effectiveness, efficiency, and relevance. It helps prioritize limited resources based on current goals of the Board of County Commissioners. It aligns spending with those strategic goals. Decisions are made based on impact, value, and need, not historical precedent. Fiscal responsibility, public safety, and safety in neighborhoods, education and youth development, land preservation and maintaining the county's rural character, economic development, employee compensation and salary enhancements. Those are all areas in which the county commissioners have reinforced over and over the past year as we moved into this particular type of budget. Budget adjustments, staff conducted detailed department reviews to realign spending with the Board of County Commissioners' priorities. New or expanded programs, only included when clearly justified and aligned with strategic outcomes. Cuts and consolidations, which there were many. Programs that lacked measurable outcomes and strategic relevance were reduced or restructured. Staff recommendations, emphasizing transparency, performance data, and public value to guide decisions moving forward. Zero-based budget ensures funding is assigned where it matters most within our community. Zero-based budget empowers us to be good stewards of taxpayers' dollars. Zero-based budgeting represents the best practice, adding value again back into our community. And I think the final bullet I have for you tonight is that this budget is intended to be both strategic and responsible. I can't stress this particular budget enough because this budget was designed for long-range, long-term success with budget. So it's not just fiscal year 26 that we looked at. It's also fiscal year 27. That was a directive that came from the Board of County Commissioners. That's why this budget was as severely put together as it was. We reduced over $17 million so that not only is there breathing room in fiscal year 26, but also within fiscal year 27. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Director of Finance and Budget.
Thank you.
Bruce Miller.
For the record, Bruce Miller, the county's finance director. At this time, I would like to talk about the reconciliation or movement between the current budget and the staff recommended budget. So based on the director's level service budget request, the staff recommended budget reflected a $15.4 million revenue deficit. However, during the staff recommended budget presentation, it was also shared that additional pass-through expenditures from the state were a potential. As a part of the state budget, pass-through expenditures totaling $2.2 million were shifted to the county budget, thereby increasing the revenue deficit to $17.8 million. Consequently, to balance the budget, it was necessary to make adjustments outlined in the above schedule, notably $17.6 million in department operating cuts. And if you look at the schedule, you'll see where those cuts were made. Another big item was the capital improvement plan was reduced in the PAYGO funding to by $5 million down to 6.8. With that, I'd like to turn it back to Beth.
So as everyone's mentioned, we were looking for $17.8 million in budget reductions. In order to achieve that, the county administrator implemented the budget reconciliation steps highlighted on this slide. Reductions were made to all departments with the exception of the Sheriff's Office and the State's Attorney's Office. Additional cuts for non-mission critical items were identified, such as the elimination of $2.4 million in vehicle requests, the elimination of non-critical overtime at approximately $700,000, and the eliminations of conferences and training, mileage, subscriptions, and other similar expenses totaling $660,000. Per the updated State Maintenance of Effort, or MOE, which is based on school enrollment, we decreased the operating budget for the BOE by $840,000 as compared to the staff recommended budget. We projected $2.7 million in attrition savings, and as Bruce mentioned, we decreased PAYGO by $6.8 million. Since the staff recommended budget, we have made both increases and decreases to the budget. It should be noted that while taking these reconciliation steps, the county administrator was in constant communication with departments to avoid major service disruptions resulting from the planned budget revisions.
At this time, I would like to discuss and compare the fiscal 26 BOCC budget to the adopted budget of fiscal year 25. This schedule reflects changes between the fiscal year 25 adopted budget and the fiscal year 26 BOCC recommended budget. Note that the total revenues are expected to decrease $2.5 million. Although the combination of taxes and other receipts increased $12.7 million, transfers and other funding sources decreased by $15.3 million, thereby netting to the $2.5 million revenue decrease. These changes will be highlighted in the schedules that follow. So first, I would like to talk about the projected revenue decreases. Approximately $500,000 were reclassified to special revenue funds. There are still revenues collected by the county, but they were shifted from the general fund to the special revenue funds. There was also a $6.7 million decrease in interfund transfers. The majority of that was a $5.4 million loan repayment from the Water and Sewer Fund. Additionally, as mentioned earlier by the President, we decreased the fund balance use, which was $8.1 million last year. The good news is that revenues did increase, but again, not by the offset decreases. $6 million is being realized in additional real estate taxes, $3.7 million in income taxes, $1.4 million in grant and intergovernmental revenues, which includes 9/11 funds, and $1.1 million in local receipts.
As Bruce covered the revenue changes from the adopted amounts from FY25 to where we are tonight for FY26 recommended, these next two slides will show an overview of the expenditure changes by department. Like revenues, total expenditures also decreased by $2.5 million. The decrease in transfers is largely driven by the decrease in CIP PAYGO funding equaling $6.8 million, with the remaining $1 million comprised of transfers to special revenue funds. Another decrease is related to the Board of Education. As mentioned before, the MOA decreased. The decrease when comparing FY25 adopted to FY26 recommended is $1.6 million. The FY26 budget includes a STEP and a COLA for county employees. We increased the county administrator's contingency by $400,000. This is to deal with unforeseen emergencies. New 911 staff were added, about $500,000. This increase is offset by an increase to revenue. We continue to enhance our career EMS staff for a total of $1.1 million. There was a state mandated increase to the health department of about $2 million. Two additional increases to the budget that flowed down from the state were $371,000 for SSTAT and $1.8 million for teachers' retirement. There was an increase in the required pension contribution for the sheriff's office and a $1.5 million replenishment for other post-employment benefits. So this is an overview of our county's major operating funds. These include the general fund, enterprise funds, special revenue, and grants funds. Capital expenditures will be presented separately. So this slide takes the revenue by fund information that you saw in the previous slide and graphically presents the revenue breakdown by fund. As you can see, the general fund makes up 84% of the operating funds.
As you can see from this slide, the two largest revenue sources are property and income taxes. Of total revenues equaling $385 million, these two sources equal 91%, or $350 million. The other revenue categories, totaling 9% of total general fund revenue, include other taxes, local and intergovernmental receipts. This slide provides an overview of general fund expenditures by classification. As you can see, the two largest expenditure categories are the Sheriff's Office at 10% and the Board of Education at 43%, combining for over 50% of the general fund budget. I would also like to point out that debt service, representing 6%, remains well below the county debt policy of 9.5%. The next slide is a breakdown of Board of Education funding. This schedule reflects the total county commitment to the public education. As you can see, in addition to the county's maintenance of effort amount equaling $163 million, which is included in the operating budget, the county also provides for debt service, state teachers' pension, OPEB, and the capital improvement plan. When aggregated together, this equals almost $202.4 million. Also, it should be noted as a footnote to the capital improvement plan, it is anticipated that the county will receive $21.3 million in grant funding for the Northern Middle School construction project. Beth?
So this is an overview of the special revenue funds. These funds are used to account for and report the proceeds from specific revenue sources that are restricted or committed to expenditures for specified purposes other than debt service or capital projects. The total amount of the special revenue funds is $34.9 million. Examples of the types of revenues collected are program fees, concessions, recordation tax, and speed camera fines. The three largest funds in FY26 are the Land Preservation Fund under Planning and Zoning, Calvert Public Library, and the Parks and Recreation. In FY26, we expect to receive a total of $8.6 million in grant revenue, $2.2 million for general government, $3.8 million for human services, and $2.4 million for public safety. These funds are used to support and enhance programs offered throughout the county.
The next slides are on the water and sewer, and then the solid waste enterprise funds. The county operates two enterprise funds, water and sewer and solid waste. Enterprise funds are 100% reliant on the fees they generate. The next four slides provide revenue and expense analysis for each. Above, the water and sewer enterprise fund generates $11.6 million in revenues, of which $10.3 million, or 89%, is fee-based. Similarly, total expenditures equal $11.6 million, of which salaries represent $4.5 million, equaling 39% of the budget. You may note that debt service equals 19% of the budget, which compared to the general fund is higher. However, it should be noted that because the water and sewer fund is a utility, these enterprises, by virtue of the business activity, have a higher capitalization levels correlating to a higher debt service as compared to general and special revenue funds, which are traditionally service-based funds. Next is the solid waste. The next two slides present revenue expenditure amounts for the solid waste fund. Solid waste generates almost 99% of its revenues, or $17.1 million, from service charges. The expenditures totaling $17.1 million, of which the largest percentage, 61%, or $10.5 million, represent contract services. Another 26, or $4.5 million, represents salaries and benefits.
The draft budget includes proposed staffing levels, revenues, and expenditures necessary to support the delivery of services and programs to the community. The budget process is a fluid one. As such, the final adopted budget may reflect changes to staffing, revenue, and/or expenses. With that in mind, we have projected changes for the commissioners to consider. The next two slides show adjustments, both increases and decreases, to general fund expenditures. The revenue streams listed here will cover those changes to keep the budget balanced. So on this slide, you'll see that we adjusted insurance costs for the volunteer fire departments and added expenses that were needed to support the health department. Here you can see we made adjustments to non-county agencies and the Office on Aging. You will also see an increase to vehicles for the Sheriff's Office. These vehicles are reimbursable, so there's a corresponding revenue increase reflected on slide 24. Lastly, for projected changes, the Office on Aging Special Revenue Fund has an increase to expense and a matching increase to revenue. Next up is Danielle Russell to discuss the capital improvement plan.
The fiscal year 2026 capital budget represents the first year of the six-year capital improvement plan and totals $62.1 million in project appropriations. These investments support critical infrastructure, public facilities, and key community priorities. Funding sources for the FY 2026 capital budget include a $6.9 million transfer from the general fund, or PAYGO, $23.1 million in debt financing, $1 million in excise taxes, $750,000 in enterprise fund utility fees and capital connection charges, and $30.2 million in external funding from state and federal grants or loans. The $62.1 million capital budget prioritizes investments that directly benefit our residents. Education is the largest category, totaling $31.6 million, including $30.4 million for the new Northern Middle School construction project. Enterprise fund projects account for $11.2 million, with $6 million dedicated to essential water system improvements in Chesapeake Heights and Dares Beach. Transportation infrastructure totals $7.9 million, including $5 million for the county's paving program. We have also allocated $5.1 million for maintenance and renovation of public facilities, including $267,000 to support restoration efforts at Cove Point Lighthouse ahead of its 200th anniversary. Public safety investments total $2.9 million, with $2.1 million going towards fire, rescue, and emergency service apparatus. $3.2 million is dedicated to parks and recreation, including $1.2 million to replace the playground at Cove Point Park. At this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Townslow.
Thank you for allowing me to join you tonight. As Superintendent of Calvert County Public Schools, it is my privilege to present our proposed Board of Education budget for the fiscal year 26. This budget is more than just numbers. It represents our commitment to providing high-quality education for every student in our district. Our main goal is to continue delivering services we've continually provided, enabling our students and staff to achieve equal or greater value or highest level of excellence provided through our education system. Our budget priorities focus on ensuring a safe environment that focuses on student excellence, provide instructional resources, recruit and retain high-quality staff, and provide ongoing services to employees, honoring our collective bargaining agreements, maintain efficient and responsive operations, maintain current staffing, and continue to implement the requirements for Blueprint for Maryland's Future Law. Our approach to budget development started in early January and also through July at the top of 24. And we began talks with our county commissioners, finance director of Calvert County government, county administrator, increased our intergovernmental collaboration. We developed budget priorities to develop trust and transparency. And our ultimate goal was not to ask for additional funds from our county commissioners. We analyze our current spending needs and increase the use of our zero-based budgeting. We had some fiscal challenges when developing the fiscal 26 budget. Some of the impacts were the inflationary cost increases. The CPI, or the Consumer Price Index gauge for inflationary costs, increased from December to December 3%. Our elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund has been utilized, and also we recognize that Maryland is in a budget deficit. In addition, there was cost passed down from the locals, which was a 75% requirement for Blueprint, which could result in changes to the budget allocations for each school. Additionally, at the top of fiscal year 25, we have to start an annual salary of $61,000 with a $7,000 increase to the starting salary that was initially $54,000, and the additional cost for every teacher that earned their national board certification. The Blueprint for Maryland's Future is an unprecedented piece of legislation that provides a framework for transforming education in Maryland. This year, the Blueprint expenditures include the career ladder costs, including the teacher starting salary and the NBC increases. We have relied on the elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund to help cover summer school costs as well as cost of summer school transportation. We have numerous digital licenses and laptops that have been purchased through our ESSER funds, and it's important to note that the ESSER funding has ended, resulting in a shift of our costs to our local budget. Some of the examples we utilize our emergency relief fund was for programs and digital license for Agile Mind, Lexicor 5, McGraw-Hill, Edmentum, and Reading Ready. Now let's look at the dollar amounts. This slide shows the funding source for the school system budget. As you can see, the primary revenue source for Calvert County Public School is county and state for the unrestricted fund. This represents over 95% of our budget. This slide shows our actual revenue for fiscal year 24 and our current budget revenue for fiscal year 25 and the proposed revenue budget for fiscal year 26. You would notice that we are not asking for an increase from the county, not a dollar more than what we received in the current fiscal year. This slide shows where the money goes. We are a people organization, so most of our cost goes to salary and wages. Another significant cost is the mandated and negotiated employment benefit costs that are reflected in the other charges. Those two areas total 86.5% of our budget. This recap shows our overall expenditure change is 4.1%, just slightly over the December 23 to December 24 Consumer Price Index. As you recall, the CPI is the government's gauge of inflation. Although our expenditure are $11.3 million more, we are not planning to use budget savings, we are planning to use budget savings from fiscal year 24 and our current fiscal year 25. We underspent fiscal year 24 and we are using $6.25 million from that. And the underspending from fiscal year 25 is currently estimated to be $2.5 million. As a reminder, I shared the budget stressors, including inflationary costs, required expenses for Blueprint for Maryland Schools, and the conclusion of the ESSER grant funding. To avoid requesting additional funding from the county, we will use our savings from fiscal year 24, our anticipated savings in fiscal year 25, and projected interest earnings in fiscal year 25. This approach will enable Calvert County Public Schools to meet the Blueprint requirements, provide necessary resources for our students and staff, and maintain all current positions. And this is the maintenance of effort that was sent in January of 2025, just an FYI. We do expect there to be an updated version from MSDE soon, but that's yet to be received. Thank you.
Dr. Townsend, may I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
The exhaustion of the ESSER funding. I know that you have some you're looking for some reimbursements. Student laptops at $535,000 and $55,000 for completed capital projects. Are you saying you're going to be able to make that up if you do not get reimbursed for that with savings and interest? Is that what you're planning?
Well, our goal is to utilize any extra expenditures from our fund balance. And so
Okay.
the unassigned that we have, we're assigning.
Okay.
So we don't have to ask the county for anything.
Okay, thank you.
The Commissioner's budget is available on the county's website, and books are available for viewing at all Calvert County Library locations. The vote for the adoption of the FY26 budget will be June the 10th during the regularly scheduled BOCC meeting. Public comment on the Commissioner's budget will be accepted until 4:30 PM on June the 9th. The floor will now be open for public comment, starting with speakers from the main BOCC courtroom and then virtual callers.
So the floor has been open for public comment at this hearing. Resolution 6-89 was intended to maintain the order and decorum of the governmental process. Copy is here to my right. Those attending in person will be invited to speak in the order in which you signed up. Those joining virtually, if you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand function, or if you called in, use *9. Virtual participants will be identified by their screen name or the last 4 digits of your phone number and unmuted one at a time. You're asked to identify yourself by name and address, and those who are providing comments as individuals be allocated 2 minutes. Speakers that are the designated representative of a group will be allocated 5.
The first speaker is Judy Peterson.
I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of our beautiful park system tonight. My name is Judy Peterson, and I have the honor of serving as chairman of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. The mission of this volunteer board, established via the Parks and Recreation Ordinance, is to, quote, assist the Department of Parks and Recreation achieve the goals of establishing services which meet community needs through public input. And to that end, I am here tonight to, with my colleague who is here, Marcus Shields, to do just that, to talk about parks. We want to thank you, first of all, the commissioners, for your magnificent support in the past, and to ask for restoration of operational funding and consideration of the significant impacts that delays on CIP projects are going to have. I made a career in parks in Fairfax County, Virginia, where I served as Director of Communications and PIO for the Park Authority for more than 2 decades. It's a nationally acclaimed park system, and I could speak endlessly about the essential benefits of parks and the need to fully fund them. But luckily, you've only provided me with 5 minutes. So let me take just a moment to thank my fellow volunteer Park Advisory Board members for their commitment to this county's parks, as well as the talented and dedicated staff that work every day. Director Bob Branham has brought fresh ideas, ambitious standards of professionalism, decades of experience, and an open mind to the job. And frankly, the community is really, really lucky to have him. So each of us, I think, understands the basics of building a budget and the difficult choices that you face as elected officials when needs outstrip available funding. Cutbacks at the national, state, and now local level are very impactful, and it's crucial that you find a funding balance between all the essential services, keeping in mind that taxpayer funding is a limited resource as well. So I propose that we become very creative. Albert Einstein wrote, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used to create them. So with that in mind, I think it's time that we look at some realistic, periodic, small fee increases where they are appropriate. And I do understand that that's always a very controversial issue. We also need to continue to streamline processes and find systemic economies within the system. I believe expansion of our volunteer workforce, for example, could improve programming and potentially lessen staff requirements. And while this would not be a fast process, I also believe that in the not too distant future, the creation of a park foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to funding those things that tax dollars just simply can't pay for, would be a park system attribute. So tonight, I just want to plant these ideas for future consideration. In the interim, however, we do need the Board of County Commissioners to continue their strong funding support. Fields still need to be mowed, bathrooms need to be cleaned, and trash cans emptied. Kids need to learn how to swim. Our camps need to care for the children of Calvert County while parents go to work. We have a whole generation to teach about the benefits of environmental stewardship. The list is endless because parks are at the very fabric that holds communities together. I respectfully offer these points for consideration. CDC studies have shown that those people who use parks are physically more active and therefore healthier, but unfortunately, most Americans, they don't meet that recommended level. So in short, parks keep us healthy, and access to parks is critical. A 2022 NRPA study reports that 90% of adults view parks and recreation as a vital local government service. That's comparable to fire protection, roads, water, utilities, and police protections. Residents believe in funding public parks. Families and individuals visit their local parks and recreation facilities an average of 22 times per year. So in closing, let me reiterate our great appreciation for what you are already doing. We recognize that these are lean times. We just ask that you keep in mind how valuable a well-funded, well-maintained, and growing park system is to this community. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marcus Shields.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Marcus Shields, and I'm a resident of Prince Frederick. I also serve on the Parks Advisory Board, but tonight I'm speaking to you simply as a resident who cares deeply about parks and recreation means to this community. I want to start by recognizing Bob Branham, a longtime leader of Calvert Parks, and his incredible staff. They've worked tirelessly to manage growing demand, expand programs, and maintain our parks, often stretching limited resources. Their dedication truly makes a difference every day. Supporting parks and recreation directly aligns with Calvert County's mission. Our parks help preserve Calvert County's environment, heritage, and rural character by protecting green spaces and shorelines that define our identity. Strong parks support sustainable economic growth, raising property values, attracting visitors for tournaments and festivals, and making our county a place families and businesses want to call home. Parks and recreation is truly one of Calvert's essential departments and a community cornerstone. Keeping it strong means keeping Calvert strong. Now, parks are busier than ever, programs fill up fast, bills stay booked, but with that use comes wear and tear, and the need for investment in maintenance, upgrades, and staffing to keep everything safe and accessible. I'm excited about the project underway, Cove Point Park improvements, Breezy Point Beach upgrades, and the future Harriet E. Brown Community Center. These are not nice extras. They're essential investments in our health, our youth, and quality of life. We know from national studies that kids involved in recreation are 50% less likely to use drugs and 27% less likely to be arrested. Every field, every playground, every community center keeps youth active, engaged, and safe, saving money in law enforcement and social services down the line. I hope you'll continue supporting Bob and his team with the resources they need and make this place we're all proud to call home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jerry Mumper.
Squeeze the hand.
Gotcha. Good evening. I'm talking on behalf of Calvert Advanced Life Support and for Chief Chris Shannon of our organization. Commissioners, I am before you tonight to recognize an incredibly complex and difficult job for you to have this year for deciding the final fiscal year 2026 Calvert County budget. For the first time in many years, perhaps decades, your decision will have a far-reaching consequence throughout the county and its future. Your mission statement is supporting Calvert County's essential institutes and keeping them strong. It's for this reason that I'm here tonight. The current career EMS FY26 budget requests 4 more EMS shift supervisors. It is my belief that this would have a negative impact on the volunteer EMS in the county. On April 9th, Commissioners meeting, Chief Miller explained that he needed these positions for span of control, painting a picture of how taxed the current EMS supervisors were and they could not cover the entire county effectively due to the size. Currently, EMS 20 supervisors cover 4 stations, which is well within Chief Miller's span of control of 3 to 5 stations per supervisor. If you consult with any of the larger fire departments in the region, they will tell you that the normal is 4 to 5 stations per battalion chief. If you allot these new positions, it will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for a 2-to-1 ratio. During difficult financial times, this seems unnecessary. Additionally, these extra supervisors will make it harder for the volunteer paramedics to run calls and will likely result in the volunteer paramedics leaving Calvert County. You were told that one supervisor just cannot cover the area. What I believe you were not told by is that Chief Miller and Lieutenant Ford also have ALS-equipped emergency response vehicles and occasionally respond to calls when the supervisors are out of position or committed on another call. The newly hired assistant chief also will have an ALS response vehicle, making another resource to be utilized when needed. Currently, there is an incredible force of 37 volunteer paramedics in Calvert County. By far the most in Southern Maryland region, with St. Mary's having 17 and Charles having only 6. If you support the creation of 4 new EMS supervisors before exercising due diligence and research what other options are available, as well as how they will affect services as a whole, then the Commissioner Hance's April 9th statement of there won't be any more volunteer EMS in Calvert County in 5 years might as well come true. It will solely be because the career EMS system expanded too quickly and without an oversight from one of the groups of people that give their time freely to keep Calvert EMS supplemental. The total salary cost for the current supervisors in FY24 is $530,000. Adding new positions will double that to over $1 million. It is my belief you have only been offered one possible option for expanding career EMS in the county, and it is the one that will effectively eliminate Calvert Advanced Life Support. 37 volunteer paramedics with more in school now save the county hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries and wages. I urge you to explore the other options that will help career EMS operate effectively without causing the volunteer ALS to disappear from Calvert County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dawn Lavelle.
Dawn Lavelle, citizen. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm back again to comment on the sad state of the county's budget process. Shame on you, the Commissioners, the county administrators, and the Director of Finance and Budget. Yes, each one of you, as leaders and managers, should be ashamed of the information contained in the budget document and the presentation. Before I begin the 26 budget, though, I think you have unfinished business for 25, for the current budget. I remember correctly, the pilot program revenues were not completely negotiated before the adoption of the 25 budget. I don't remember seeing a budget adjustment to add these revenues to the current budget. Is this part of the new non-transparent pattern in recent years to skip over changes that occur after budget adoption? Now to address the 26 budget plan. In your commissioner's letter alone, I found numerous inaccuracies, misinformation, lack of information, and misleading statements. Let me start with the last sentence of the first paragraph of your letter. Quote, "The primary reductions in general fund revenues are due to eliminating the fund balance and decreasing interfund transfers." Eliminating the fund balance? But yet, when I look on page 36 of the budget document, you state there is more than $137 million in total funds and fund balance. Why was it eliminated? Was it eliminated? If so, why is there a balance stated on page 36? Also, if you eliminate it, where did the $137 million go? So this sentence tells me whoever wrote that statement does not understand what was written, and whoever proofread it did not comprehend what they were reading, or maybe, which I strongly suspect is the case, it was not proofread at all. It appears that there is a total lack of basic understanding of budget terminology. If you don't understand the basic terminology, how is a citizen to trust the contents of the document? They depend on you to know what you're doing. What does $500,000 million on page 8 and page 11 of tonight's presentation mean? Our budget is only $380 million. New year, same mistakes. Why didn't you use 24 actuals throughout your presentation? Just like you did not use 24 actuals to build the 25 budget. Or
Please
maybe if you
wrap
had
up your
used them, the
comments.
citizens would have seen how inflated the 25 budget was, and you would not have been justified in raising both income and property taxes.
Thank you. Next speaker.
There's a lot more in there that I'm
Next
not allowed to
speaker
get to.
is Barbara Warner, representing the CERC.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
My name is Barbara Warner, Chair of the County Employees Representative Committee, commonly known as the CERC. On behalf of county employees, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the board. Employees recognize that this has been a challenging budget year, and we truly appreciate your commitment to supporting county staff by requesting both step increases and cost of living adjustment to be included in the budget. I also want to take this opportunity to acknowledge that over the past year, we've seen encouraging progress in communication and collaboration among Human Resources, the County Administrator's Office, and the Board. Working together, even when we don't always agree, has made a meaningful impact on employee morale and trust. Your willingness to listen to employees' concerns, particularly regarding the proposed changes to Chapter 86, has not gone unnoticed. County employees are deeply thankful for your leadership and continued support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, anybody online who wishes to provide comment, please use the raise your hand function. Mr. President, no one has raised their hand.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight, and those online. As I said at the beginning, it's been a challenging process for everybody. It's not easy to sit up here and tell people no or make budget cuts, but we do the best we can with the information that we have at hand. You know, it's been quite a challenge this past year. You know, as Dr. Townsend mentioned, Blueprint put quite a wrinkle in our plan 2 years ago. We started implementing Blueprint. I think in the last 3 years, we put $37 million of new funding in the school system, which was not anticipated. And we've pushed off the Parks and Rec group, mentioned the CIP projects. We've pushed off CIP projects, keeping only those in line that have significant grant funding. You can't keep doing that, just as she stated in her comments. You can't keep pushing CIP projects. Hopefully, I think Blueprint, we're finally on the downhill slide of that, hopefully, and we can get back to building some things and making some improvements to our capital projects. So just want to thank you all again for coming out. We do appreciate your comments, all those that commented throughout the process, and you still can make comments up until June 9th at 4:30, and we'll, on our June 10th meeting, we'll adopt the budget at that time. So again,
I'd just like to add, I just want to also say thank you to everybody. This year was a little unique. A lot of moving parts. Done a lot of these, and boy, a lot of moving parts this year from the energy facilities and, you know, as we heard with Blueprint, and we had a couple new BOE members come in, and like I said, I've had fantastic conversations with the Board of Ed. It was a very encouraging year. We've seen our volunteers really step up, from EMTs to the Marine Museum to you name it. I mean, and just staff as a whole, from, I mean, everything from Parks and Recs to just every facet of county government, with all these different moving parts, have just really kept their eye on the ball, and we would not be having the successful year, I think, as we've had. I mean, there's always, it's easy to drive from the back seat, and there's things we could always do better, but to see a time when we've had the state of Maryland take money from our school system, which is something I never thought I could see, and then to pass on deficit cost, okay, but everybody just keeps grinding and keeps working, and just the morale from staff. I mean, it's just been fantastic to see. Every time I go somewhere, everybody's just they're just doing a phenomenal job. And I just want to say thank you to everybody. I think from A to Z, our catalog of folks, like I said, from volunteers to to every part we have, has really worked, I think, phenomenally hard this year. And hopefully, seeing these changes, as President Hans said, be a different approach going forward, but I think it'd be a positive one. I think everybody, I think, wants the same thing. I think they want to see the county be a strong, safe, vibrant county for everyone that we're proud to live in. And just want to say thank you to everybody.
Well, I want to thank all of our staff as well. I don't think people realize our staff doesn't just work, I know, one night overtime here or there during this process for the past few months. Our staff has worked weekends and evenings. And I want to give a big thank you to them because they put in a lot of effort. We took on zero-based budgeting this year. That was new to everyone, and everybody stepped up to the plate. I also want to thank you, Dr. Townsell. It's been a good year. It's been a collaborative year, and we all really appreciate it. So thank you so much for your efforts.
So I want to thank everyone for working together to make sure this budget was balanced. Danielle, I want to thank you for your CIP presentations. They clarified a lot for all of us. Budget process has been challenging, to say the least. I know there's flaws in the budget, and I know there's probably people out there that want to comment or maybe want to comment later on after the fact. By all means, the form of comment you can do at this point is send us emails. We encourage that feedback. I mean, all it's going to do is make us better. So we would appreciate getting feedback from the public as much as we possibly can. Thank you. Yes, sir. I move that we leave the record open through close of business on Monday, June 9th, 2025.
Second.
Have a excuse me, have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Got you. Opposed? Motion carries. Everyone, thank you for coming out and have a great evening.
Thank you all.